So it's 6 p.m. on clock, so I guess we can kick off. We'll be talking today with Marina Alekseeva, who's a colleague and probably I can say a friend. So we met each other through a course that we completed together. And this is going to be the first in a series of the conversation on, let's say, more practical aspects on how to use coaching, because there were a lot of workshops and so on where we discuss some theory, practice something, but this will be with the person who was on a quite high executive level who was practicing coaching. So I'm sure that Marina has a lot to share with us. So without further ado, Marina, maybe you can start with briefly introducing yourself.
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and I'm happy to be here, and Alex, so thank you for this great opportunity to talk and share my experience with coaching in the workplace. And yeah, so Alex and I met during mentoring courses and became good colleagues and good friends. And so until recently, I worked at Intel, and I was vice president at Intel and general manager of research and development organization of Intel in Russia. And obviously I'm based in Russia, in Nizhny Novgorod. But you know what, so I have started to develop this passion to coaching and spend most of my energy and my time working with people, one-on-one, directly working with people to help them grow and develop. So that's why I left this high-profile job at Intel and became a coach, a career coach, and a mentor. My specialization in coaching is all about career, and I'm also working with women trying to find their unique, authentic careers. And also I'm one of the members of the organizational committee of Women in Data in EMEA.
Great, thanks for the introduction. So I'll kick off with the questions that I have, and I'm curious, like, how did you become a coach? What made you start?
Okay, so how I became a coach? You know, so actually there were a few things that triggered my motivation to become a coach. Just first of all, I worked with a coach for the first time. It was many, many years ago. And it was during a very challenging time in my career. I was assigned to lead a project which was in a very bad shape, and my job was to put it back on track. And for several months, I was in constant firefighting mode and under big stress and huge pressure from above, and all heads down, problem after problem, problem after problem. And eventually I started to realize that I completely lost the purpose of my job, why I'm doing this, what I'm doing this. But unfortunately, I even didn't have time to stop and to think about, maybe I should be doing something differently. And my understanding at that point was that this constant stress and firefighting is going to last through the end of my life. And I really started to hate my job. But luckily, I started working with a coach, and that gave me that forced me to stop really and to start thinking about what's my purpose as a manager, what's my role as a manager. And my role as a manager is not firefighting. My role as a manager, more longer term vision in strategy, and instead of fighting fires here and there, so just think about the longer vision, longer term strategy, and build the team around this vision and the strategy. And that gave me a real purpose for me personally. And I started to love my job. And so that was one thing. So I experienced coaching by myself. And then when working with the people and people calling me and asking questions about their careers, so I'm very good in giving instructions and advices, and I just love it because I feel I'm so experienced, I'm so smart, I'm helping other people. But I started to realize that my advices did not work most of the time. I was just telling people do this and do that because their situation was unique. So that's why, so I have started exploring, so what's going on in their, how they think, so how they approach things. And, so just this understanding that giving instructions to people who understand their situation better, who understand themselves better, works much more efficiently. And actually people have all the resources and capabilities to find solution to their problems. And, so that was about coaching. And I, so I started to study at the International Academy of Coaching. So just got my certificate, and for about 3 years, in parallel with running the big team, I was also providing coaching as the part of the internal coaching program at Intel to my peers and to my colleagues. And as I said, eventually, so decided that will be my next chapter of my life.
So one thing is that you experienced coaching yourself and you felt the benefits of it, and another you were looking for some tools that you can use to be more efficient in helping other people.
Right.
So how would you define then the coaching? What's coaching?
Okay, so that's a very good question, because so there are so many definitions of coaching, right? So, and I think every coach has his or her own definition of coaching. And I think that's great because coaching believes that all people are unique and all people are capable. And I think every coach so brings their own flavor into definition of coaching, depending on how they think, depending on their worldview. And for me, coaching is three things. One is as a discipline, and coaching is about helping people or enabling people to structure their thinking, understand how they think, find the gaps in their thinking, think about all possible opportunities that they may have to solve their problem. And then again, so just walking through their thinking process to find solution to their problem. And quoting Einstein, so no problem can be solved at the same level it was created. So for me, the way I interpret this is that in order to solve the problem that you cannot solve, you need just to think differently. So coaching as a discipline is learning to think differently. Then it is a process, and it's a conversation or a series of conversation where one person, coach, helps another person, the client, to structure their thinking by asking stimulating questions which lead to insights and eventually to solving problem by the client. But coaching also relationship. When approached with a person, someone approaches us with a problem, we have this tendency to solve problem for them, right? And we tend to look at the person like, so they have a problem, I must help. And I'm smart, I'm experienced, I can help. So I'm just looking kind of upside down at the person. In coaching, you believe that whom you see in front of you is a capable person. It's your partner, it's your equal partner. They have all the capabilities and all the resources to solve their problem. And your job as a coach is only to guide them through their thinking process. So it's the relationship of equal. It's not easy. It's not easy when someone approaches you with a problem to stop and not solve the problem for them, but help them solve the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I used to say that a lot of things in coaching are simple, but they are not easy to do.
They're not easy to do. They're so simple.
Yeah. I see that some questions coming in. I will be asking them at the end of the conversation. So thanks. And if you have any, just please post them in chat. So if coaching is helping people and exploring their way of thinking, what then is not coaching? How you can distinguish coaching from something else?
Okay, so coaching and non-coaching. So the main criteria that I would use would be, what's your intention in the conversation?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so what's just asking myself or watching the conversation, asking question, what's the real purpose of conversation? What do I really want? What I want to be the result of this conversation? You know, so I may want you, Alex, for example, to do what I'm telling you to do, right? That's my intent. That's my intent. I want you to do what I want you. I want you to do what I want you to do. I'm giving you an advice. But I pretend to be a coach and ask questions, right? Mm-hmm. Or for example, very typical situation at work, when employee, for example, makes a mistake and the manager starts a conversation, right? But the real intention of the manager is to make employee feel ashamed and miserable. But the real coaching starts when the intention of conversation is learning. My intent of the conversation is learning. Is help you to learn how you think and help you to think differently. That's, I'm stepping back, I'm helping you to learn. So for me, the intent of the conversation distinguishes coaching from not coaching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we'll play devil's advocate for a bit. So is it possible to ask questions and still not coach?
Of course, right? Of course, you know, so what do you think about, for example, go into IT department and coordinate with them the schedule of their server downtime so that we can finish our project on time? It's a question, right? Mm-hmm. But it's completely not a coaching question. It's not a coaching question because I want an employee go to IT department and talk to on the specific topic. And I also, you know, so want them to achieve a certain result of the conversation. It's not a coaching. It's leading people to do what I want them to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. So let's shift gears a bit and talk about how was it for you to learn coaching skills? So any kind of highlights, any challenges that you faced during this process? And you mentioned that it was natural for you, as for many of us, to give some advice. So how did you change this habit?
Oh yes, of course it was not easy. It was not easy, and especially when you're a manager and when you're a leader, because we are problem solvers. We love solving problems. Give us a problem and we'll solve it. We love it, right? We think we are being paid for solving problems. And now, as a manager who used to be the smartest person, had answers to all the questions, just think about our ego loves it, right? And now you switch to the person who is asking questions as if she doesn't know. Mm-hmm. Everyone is surprised. It is so difficult. It is so difficult. It's still difficult. It's still difficult. But you can learn the skill just to stop. Just to stop. What are you doing? And again, so what's the intention of the conversation? Because many times at work, you don't apply coaching. So you need, there is an emergency, you just go and give directions, right? So that's number one, right? Just that's that's number one, that you're not problem solver anymore. You're a coach. You are switching from exposing power to empowering others to think and to make a decision. So this is number one. This is then number two, your team will be surprised. Your team will be surprised because from the person who knows everything and has answers to all the questions, solves all the problem for you, now is looking at you and asking, what do you think? And if you don't explain to the team what's going on and what caused behavior of the manager, with the change in the manager behavior, they may become suspicious and may become closed, right? They may close. So that's why just openly talking to the team and having this conversation. So how do we manage the team? What would be the best management style for the team? How do we cooperate? How all of my team gets involved into running the team? And having this open conversation, and also just understanding that new style is a habit, is a new habit. It takes time to develop. And you will fall back into old style from time to time, and especially under stress. But it doesn't mean yet that you're not capable. It doesn't mean that coaching is not working. It only means that you're just a normal person. So that's why understanding that this may happen, this is normal. Okay, that's okay. Just analyze situation after that. Understand what triggered your reaction and try to avoid the situation in the future. The same with the team, just talk openly to them and say, so this is how we will be working together moving forward, and just openly tell them. So just from time to time, I may fall back into the old behaviors. And if you think it's not appropriate, just tell me. Yeah, so I think that's stepping down from the pedestal, then working with the team to explain that now you have different expectations from them, because now you want them to express their opinion, to disagree with you. It's maybe difficult for many people. Another thing is that it doesn't mean that when you apply these coaching skills as your management style, it doesn't mean that you become 100% coach all the time. Of course, it's situational. And of course, there are situations when you need to be very directive. When you are sharing information, on when there is an emergency, you just need to tell people, get out of the building. Right? Just understanding when you are in directive style or when you're the coach, just in switching depending on the circumstances, even within the same conversation. So that's yet another skill that you need to develop, just understanding what's the most appropriate now.
Mm-hmm. So the things that helped you is transparency in managing expectations with your team.
Yes.
Developing the awareness of what are you doing, and
Yes.
also be mindful about why specifically choosing either more directive or non-directive approach.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Any other advice to the people who just start out to develop their coaching skills?
So any other advice? Just practice, just practice. But once again, and especially if you're at work, be mindful about trust. So it's the fundamental of coaching relationship is trust, both ways. I trust in you, you trust in me. And we have completely open relationship. We can be vulnerable, right? We can be open, and in conversation, we can feel psychologically safe, right? We can express our opinions. Because if there is no trust, there is no coaching. There is no coaching. And as a manager, and especially as a manager, it's very difficult. And you shouldn't be expecting, and I think you can understand, you shouldn't be expecting employees to be completely open with you. So you can reach this type of relationship, but from the very beginning, they don't expect people around you to be open and trusting you. So just first think about trust, whether you have enough level of trust. So just ask yourself a question. So do you think, just ask yourself a question. So what's the level of trust with your manager, right? Are you open to discuss with your manager so that you're going to leave the company? Not when you have decided, right? So when you have an offer from another company, right? But we're just thinking, you know, it's boring. I'm looking for opportunities. I'm looking for living in a company. Can we have this discussion? Do you have this level of trust with your boss? Now think about your employees. Do they have the same level of trust with you that they can talk about these sensitive things? And watch what's going on in your head when they are talking. Who is talking in your head? A manager who wants to, you know, so just retain them and prevent them from leaving. And once again, remember the intention, my intention to persuade them to stay, or you're still working as a coach and you discuss it, the situation. It's hard, but it's worth it.
I never thought about it like this. It's a very interesting point of view. And I guess you can't expect from people being more open than you are willing to be.
Right.
And as people with more status and power, it's usually up to us to show them the way and model what kind of trust we are willing to put into them.
Right.
So in terms of the results that you had as you start to use more coaching skills, what kind of results did you observe? What did you notice?
So I think for me personally, you know, so even doing this kind of a self-coaching and asking myself a question, what's the purpose of what I'm doing? What's important? What I want to achieve? What would be the best way? What options do I have? What options I have? Helps me to be more effective as a person. And also the relationship, coaches, we are not judgmental. Coaches are not judgmental. Coaches do not judge other people. They not judge people right or wrong. They accept people as they are. And when you're not judging people, you become curious. You just become curious. What a unique person, what a unique person is in front of me. How they think, what's their worldview, what's their story, what conclusions they make without any judgment. And I think it opens the new world of relationship with people, because every person becomes very interesting person. And actually the entire world around you becomes very interesting because you're not judging, you're just learning all the time.
Marina, sorry for interrupting. How do you get there? It sounds too far-fetched.
You know, so just once again, practice. Just practice and practice and practice, and just watch yourself. And when you, and of course, I didn't get rid of this 100%, of course. I just started doing much more of that, not judgment. Just be curious, right? And when you find yourself judging right or wrong, especially right or wrong, ask yourself a question. Why do I think I'm right? Because when you're judging people and just thinking they're right or they're wrong, And many times, you know, so just if you watch it, yeah, so just many times people don't know the facts, the real facts, which is proven by science. I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about when people express their opinion, when people express their feeling, right? We judge them. We judge them. When you find yourself asked, who told you that you're right? Who told you? And you will find yourself that it's the whole system of all this belief that was developed and put on you while you were growing up. The same happened with that person. You just have two different systems. And neither is right or wrong. They're just two different systems. And you become curious. And look at kids. Look at kids. They don't judge the world. They don't judge people. They're just curious. What's going on? Right? So what's going on? So how things are made of, right? So why things move? They're asking all these questions. They're just curious. They don't judge. So that's why, you know, so by being not judgmental, I think I became a happier person. So as a team, the relationship in the team changed dramatically. I think, first of all, because of more trust, because of more openness in the team, and we became more efficient. It doesn't mean that we started to produce more at the same time. You go, yeah, that's obvious. But I think of the relationship, and one particular change that I have noticed is that every team member started to talk on behalf of the team. We started to use we instead of I more often. Before, everyone, and I was running a very diverse team in terms of functions, right? So I had software developers, I had software testers, I have technical writers and software developers, there were system developers, there were web developers, very diverse team. So how they talk to each other, right? So the same language. And before it was like this, so everyone was talking about vertical, but now everyone is talking about the team. In external communications, they're talking on behalf of the team. And even within the team, so people were putting team priorities before their individual team priorities. And, you know, so we really became a better team and more efficient team. So I think that will, and I think with people whom I worked with individually, before as a career advisor and now as a coach, so they, of course, they benefited more from this different type of relationship.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other results or consequences of using coaching in a workplace? Maybe yours or your clients?
You know, so coaching, coaching can be applied in many different ways. So every time when you need to discuss development, whether it's an individual development of an employee or whether you need to discuss a longer term strategy and the vision, it's all about coaching. When there is a big change and you need people to adapt quickly to the change. When you're building your leadership pipeline, what's very efficient is coaching as a post-training learning tool. When people take training, right, and after that they work with a coach in order to apply what they have learned in their specific circumstances. And I remember at least two things when, you know, so I saw coaching was very effective when applied to the team, just first in my team. And we were going through, there was a very big rework and my team was going through the big transformation because of that. And we needed to redefine team vision and strategy. And I came very well prepared. Right? As a leader, I came very well prepared. It should be a vision and strategy. Right? And but I was smart enough, so just to ask a coach to work with us as a team coach to help us to have a discussion. And he did a very good job, and just talking about our purpose in the context of the bigger business, of the big organization, talking about our values, talking about our talents, talking about our strengths, talking about our dreams, talking about relationship, about everything. And so we formed the vision, we formed the strategy. When I compared the two, the one that I had developed on my own as a leader and the one we have developed as a team, how different they were and how richer the vision and the strategy developed, where everyone from the team contributed to forming the vision and the strategy. But I think what was the most important, because my strategy was tops down. I was trying to impose my vision and my strategy on people. And they are great teammates, they're great employees, they will comply, but that's compliance. They will just follow the rules. But now when they contributed personally to the vision and to the strategy, they started to feel personal responsibility to making it happen. Personal responsibility. And as I said, so the conversation in the team changed from I to we. How we achieve, how I can help you. And people started helping each other much more. So that was the team coaching and much more effective vision and strategy. And of course, the greater results. Business results were just really, really great, because before that, we spent a lot of time. So teams spent a lot of time, so just instead of working together to solving challenges, competition, right? So just figuring out whose job it is. It's your job, no, it's our job. Instead of just working on the problem and just moving ahead and working on the problem. And another team coaching that I still remember was in my boss's staff. So with my peers on the formation of the team. And we worked for 1 year with a coach to form the team. And I think the situation was a little bit similar, because each of us managed business verticals which were relatively independent, but then we started to develop a product which crossed all these vertical boundaries, which required a lot of coordination and communication between the team, but the team couldn't talk to each other because they didn't have this habit. And it took us almost a year working with a team coach. So that was a real problem. It's not just a good or bad relationship. So we couldn't release a product because teams couldn't talk to each other. Yep.
So you already gave some examples of the benefits of coaching. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, what do you think about the situation where it doesn't worth to use coaching, or it makes more sense to be more direct? What do you think about that?
And as I said, it doesn't mean that you're 100% coach, either at work or in life. No. Like when the building is on fire, you don't ask powerful coaching questions like, what is so important for you to escape from the burning building right now? Or what do you feel when you don't know where the emergency exit is? Of course, you don't do this, right? It's stupid. You just tell people, here is an emergency, we leave the building, here is the emergency exit, so to go. Another situation when you have the information that other people don't have, and you need just to share this information. And it's more efficient to share this information instead of just, so just asking people to find out, so on their own, for example. But for example, if I'm communicating the strategy of the company, just first of all, it's not just reading the foils. It means that I'm looking at the strategy. I need to understand company strategy. I need to understand what does it mean for my team. I need to translate this message, right? So the team understands I'm directive, right? But then you sit down with the team and ask a question. So let's have this conversation about what does it mean for us, right? What does it mean? How we're going to implement? What would be the best way, the most efficient way to implement this? So coach, and once again, so you all the time, you think about what's your intent? What's your intent when you're sharing information? You're sharing information, you want to solve the problem quickly because time is critical, or you want people to learn. So coaching is not working, and so in coaching we have this concept of not a coachable person, right? So that's someone that's so resistant to coaching, so resistant to development and being open, so that coaching is not applicable. So, or when person is under stress, right? You don't try coaching when people are under big stress. Coaching doesn't work when there is no trust. And I gave an example. And coaching doesn't work when either manager, either party has a hidden agenda. A manager may have a hidden agenda. And as I said, I want you to do what I want, but I'm pretending to be a coach. And so asking question doesn't mean coaching. So coaching is
asking the question that and hoping that they give the answer that you expect them to give.
Yeah, so that they give the answer that they expect me to do. But employee might have an agenda, and I had, so I remember examples of when employee had an agenda. So I don't know. So, and of course there was a little bit lack of trust, and he maybe was hoping for promotion, or he wanted to look good in front of me. And I could feel it, that he was trying to give the answer that I would like. He thought that I would like. And the answer that I would like is my answer, right? He was literally quoting me. And it didn't work. So when either party, and I think it goes back to lack of trust when, so there is a hidden agenda, there is lack of trust. Then coaching doesn't work. But when there is trust, there is time, and so I think one of the, and this is one of the factors when to define when to use coaching, not to use coaching. When time is a critical factor, you are directive. Period. Time is a critical. Coaching, conversation in coaching style takes time. It leads to greater results longer term. And the effect of coaching, you can see longer term. Many times you can see longer term, the results of coaching. But when time is critical, just give direction and do it. But when innovation or quality or development is the critical factor, then you can do this coaching type of conversation.
Mm-hmm. And this is a good place to seek to the question that was asked before the meetup. So there was a question about how would you coach a person who doesn't want to be a coach and who is not a stellar performer, who's basically an average performer but doesn't want to improve. So how, as a manager using coaching skills, how would you approach a situation like this?
Okay, just with your coaching skills, you ask yourself your question: what's the problem? What's the problem you as a manager is trying to solve? And so, so I'm hearing this question frequently, quite frequently. So managers approaching with this situation. I have a person who doesn't want to develop. What I'm going to do with him or her? I ask 3 questions. Number 1. So how about their job performance? Are they meeting their goals, performance goals and KPIs and whatever? Yes, they do. Okay, great. Do they have discipline issues? No. They're great employees, very disciplined. Do they create any problems in the team? No, they have great relationship with everyone else. What's the problem? They don't want to develop. What's the problem? They do not create problem for the company because they meet KPI. They do not create problem for themselves because they're typically happy. They just do a great job. They do not create problems for the team because they're great teammates. You have a problem. What's your problem as a manager? It's not their problem, it's your problem. Now, think about all people are different and we are all motivated by different things in our careers. And there is a concept of career orientations, 5 career orientations, which is what we believe is important during relatively long period of time in our career. What motivates us? 5 types. Number 1, advancement. People with this motivation, they're all about progress. They're about leading. They're all about winning. They're all about moving up. Then we have people with challenge as career orientation. They just need complicated tasks and leave them alone, right? Just give me complicated tasks and leave me alone. They love technical challenges. Then people who value stability. And for people who value stability, they don't like changes. They're very hard workers, but they value very stable environment where everything is predefined. Number 4, freedom. I think it's understood. So people who do not follow the rules. And then we have work-life balance. This is the happy people, so who value work and value life equally, and they can manage it. 5 career orientations. And typically what happens, so these people in question that typically have this stability as their career orientation, they do not create any problems for anyone except manager. But just think about the people who do the real job. They do the real job in the company. Because just think about if everyone in your team is advancement, everyone is winning, who is doing the job? Who is doing the routine job? They will not do it. They need a winning high-profile project, these people. If everyone in your team loves challenges, who is doing the job? Do you have enough complicated tasks for them? No. If everyone loves freedom, there is no discipline. And that means that in the team, you need to have all types of people. You need advancement people, you need freedom, you need challenge, you need stability, and you need balanced people. And typically what happens is the manager whose motivation is advancement is working with an employee whose motivation is stability. They just don't understand each other. Because for advancement manager, okay, so how you can do this routine job? Someone needs to do routine job. So instead of putting pressure on these people, just be very clear. If they meet performance goals, if they don't create any problems, leave them alone. Give them the job that they love doing. And they're very hard workers, but they love a lot of routine and very well-defined job. And I think in every project, you have a lot of them. Give it to them. As many as they can handle. Give to them and leave them alone. Just think about what real problem you are solving. typically it's your problem of not understanding these people, what motivates. And instead of trying to change these people, think about how you can better use them for the benefit of the team, In their development and career progression, they will not be as fast as their advancement colleagues, but they are typically fine with that. This is what they look for. And one more thing, why I'm just literally saying, leave them alone, because if you put a lot of pressure on them, maybe at some point of time, something changes in their life and their thinking, and they start thinking about the new ideas, the new ways of doing things. But because you press them so much, they will not get back to you because you press so much. You put too much pressure. They will not come back to you. So that's why have conversation, understand their motivation, just ask them what motivates your job, right? So what's most important for you? What's most important for you? Just discuss. So what type of job they can do, whether they can do more that utilize their strengths and their talents, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay, so starting with yourself and realizing what's your agenda. So let's take the question from the audience. There were some of them asked directly to me, so I'll read to you. Do you follow some coaching organization? And I know that you follow the ICF, but let's rephrase the question. So do you think managers need to care about coaching certification or following specific coaching bodies like EMCC or the ICF?
No, not all of them, because, you know, so just go into the full education in coaching. Coaching is a profession. And what do you do at coaching classes, at a coaching school, certified coaching school? You get a new profession. It's a profession. If eventually, you know, if you're excited and if eventually you want to become a professional coach, yeah, go and do it. But if you want just to be a more effective person and more effective manager, no, you don't need to go to the school. And I think especially now, so there is a lot of online courses. They're very good, which are just basic coaching skills. They teach basic coaching skills for managers. And they are all about, you know, so just important competencies of a leader, like building trust. It's about active listening. It's about asking questions. It's about, you know, just enabling others to act, but not necessarily to coach in school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there is an important distinction between being a professional coach or be a coach manager. So these are the difference. And probably as a coach manager, not everybody goes as deep as you go with professional coach.
You know, so many times, instead of, because sometimes it's really confusing when we say manager is a coach and everyone thinks about, you know, so just doing the full coaching engagement, right? So 12 sessions, grow model, right? So in just each session with the purpose and the result. No, not necessarily. So that's why many times I say just distinguish between directive management and non-directive managers. And so the way they're distinguished is by the level of involvement of the team into running the team. When you're directive manager, so you're just looking upside down on the team and giving them directions. And when you're involving team into making decision, into discussions, you're working like kind of a partner. But in order to do this, you need to have basic coaching skills.
And the example I like to give is that sometimes your coaching could be as easy as just asking, what do you think? And that's all.
At least, so at least start with this. So many managers don't do this. They just not even ask, what do you think? They just tell, go and do.
So let's take the next question. And I think it's a bit complicated. I'm not sure whether we would be able to tackle it. Probably it requires a separate session. What are the best practices about compensation and promotion in relation to the coaching skills, so through the coaching perspective?
Let me understand the question. What are the best practices about compensation and promotion system for employees? And has it changed, evolved when you look at it with the coaching eyes? Let me try. So let me try. And I think Intel is a good example because as many, so we assessed employees and respectively, so they were given a promotion or raise just purely based on the results. Okay, so here is the expectation for you. Here's expectation, and manager and employee discuss expectation according to their grade level at the beginning of the year. So here is the expectations. Here is the grade expectations. Here is the job expectations. At the end of the year, they look at the results, and depending on the results, successful, above and below, they get promotion, don't get a promotion, get a raise or don't get a raise. So just recently, we added learning component to this conversation. Not only what have you achieved, but also what you have learned. And learning is not about just attending classes. Learning is about what new skill you developed and practiced, what technical skill or new soft skill, or have you increased the scope of your influence in organization. And in order to have this conversation, even to have this conversation, you need to have the basic coaching skills. And many times, and again, so coaching is not about just asking questions, what do you think? Coaching is about helping people to structure their thinking. Because at the beginning of the year, you have this conversation with employee, okay, so here is the results that we need to achieve, here is your role, and etc. And you need to have the conversation, what they want to learn, what they need to learn. And not only that, so how they're going to approach this. And it's not about attending more and more classes. It's about taking on more complicated project and taking on more complicated project, so maybe very scary for them, right? Very scary because it's new, it's a big project, and you need to have this conversation to help them understand what stops them from starting a new project. And maybe it's a new learning and a new skill. So just figuring out what they need to learn is a very powerful coaching conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same at the end of the year. So what have you learned? It's a powerful conversation, what you have learned during this year. It's a very powerful conversation.
Mm-hmm. So you mean like adding another dimension to the performance evaluation?
Right.
Okay. There is a question, and probably I lost the context when it was asked. I think it was about the openness and transparency in terms of telling what you do. Miroslav, maybe you can explain a bit more about coaching culture. And you are muted.
I tried to. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you for your very nice and great presentation of coaching. I have a question related to coaching culture, and you mentioned it during the discussion. I don't remember at the beginning something that you have to work with the teams. And my question just was about how is it if you have a coaching culture, and you probably had, if you inform your team about the situation that you will do coaching. So I try to say, is it important to set up a team and clarify them and have a discussion with them? Yes, we are in a situation where we will do a coaching. I will coach you. You should also, and you could also coach me. So it could be something like a transparent, because it's one part of to create, I would say, the transparency is about the environment when you have a trust. So this is something probably important. And the question is related to this, how you work with this, how you create a coaching culture. And if you create it, what was the step to inform your team? Because mostly you mentioned that you work with teams. So how it was, the process you did?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good question. Good question. Thank you for asking. Just first of all, as a leader, it's not only about coaching, but as a leader, you need to be transparent all the time. Because think about yourself, you're all the time on the stage as a leader, all the time. Just remember all the time, be paranoid about this, because what you say, what you do, what you don't say, what you don't do will be noticed. And people will make an opinion. That's the manager job. That's the leader job. We are always on the stage. For example, there is a big reorg, very great reorg, very positive. For the sake of the whole company, for the sake of the whole world, it's very great. You have a headache and you have the sad face, but people will connect this, right? People will connect this. And they will think, okay, so what we are hearing about the wrong, probably not true, because our manager has the sad face, but manager has a headache, right? It's a little bit of a joke, but that's very much true. And every time when, as managers, we change behavior, we change the style, people may interpret it in different ways. We have a very good intent to improve communication, to improve relationship with the team, but we behave differently. We didn't explain this, and people may think we have something in mind, right? So we want to fire everyone, for example. So that's why the conversation that we had wasn't about, okay, so from now on, I'm doing coaching, and from now on, you're expected to express your opinion. No, so we started with building trust. And so we had a conversation with the team, and it was very well connected to when we have just periodically this longer term conversation about where we are going, whether our vision needs to change, you know, so just the typical conversation with the team. And then you can start this conversation about, so the way we work, so how it can be more efficient. And listening to the team, right? So just listening to the team, what they're telling you. And as I said, the change in behavior can be very much surprising to the team, because you had answers to all the questions and they were relying on you, right? They were relying on you. So you have answers to all the questions, but now they approach you and ask questions, you say, I don't know, because you don't know, right? And your intent is to help them to learn how to find answers to this question on their own. So that's why just having this conversation about the relationship, having this conversation about leadership and management style, right? Not you for the team, but in the entire team, And then, you know, so just explain to them so that this is how we can work more efficiently. So this is what you can expect from me. Right, so ask them questions. So what you expect from me, or from your point of view, just through conversation. And it may require several conversations because it's a habit. You will not change overnight. Your team will not change overnight. It will take a lot of time.
Marina, can you stick around a bit more, because more questions coming in?
Yes.
Okay, so Miroslava, I see your questions, but they probably a bit out of scope, so I'll take other people's questions as well. So the next question from Muzaffar, I hope I pronounced the name correctly. What kind of advice would you give to separate leadership activities from coaching, especially in small organization team? And it's interesting because it looks like in this question, the supposition is that leadership is different from coaching. But Marina, to you, how would you answer it?
Yeah, so as I said, leadership is very situational, right? So your leadership style is very situational. And depending on the situation, you can be more directive or less directive. And as I said, when you're sharing information, time is critical, you're just more directive. You just learn by practice how to be, apply this flexibility even within the same conversation. And when you practice and when you request feedback from the team from time to time, and again, so you need to have trust, then you will learn how to do this. You will learn how to do this, when to apply this flexibility. But many times you can be very direct what you are doing. And so something reminded me about the case when one of the key employees in my team approached me with very bad news. So he said that he was considering relocation. So just exploring relocation, that means that he will potentially leave the company. Just giving me a heads up. And just first of all, there was trust, right? Because he approached me with this conversation and said, potentially I may leave. So that probably he knew that there will be no consequences for him if he stays, right? So that he can talk openly about this. So what I said, okay, so as your manager, you're the key employee, I value you, I want you to stay. If there is anything that I can do, so just tell me, we can have this conversation. And he said, okay. But then I said explicitly, now I taken off my manager hat and let's have a conversation, peer-to-peer conversation. And, so it was not just, frankly, it wasn't intentional for me to have a coaching conversation. I just really frankly wanted to, if he leaves, just to help, I don't know, just help him to find the position that will fit him most. And I started asking just the typical, what's the most important for you, right? So what you value in your job, what are your talents, what environment you want to be in. We started to explore what are the companies out there, how he can apply his skills. And at the end, we had kind of an ideal career plan. And in a week, he came back and say, I'm staying. And the critical factor was the conversation that we had. Number one, so I just, from having this conversation about my values, my strengths, and all the opportunities, I realized that I already have it here. And number two, so you talk to me not like I was the workforce. You talk to me as a unique individual. And I saw that, so you want me to have a great career, no matter what. Whether it's in your company, whether you're a manager or not, whether in different company, in different country, you just wanted me to have a good career. And that's an attitude. And I would hardly find the same attitude anywhere else. That's why I'm staying. So this is just an example of the power of coaching. It's not only about the attitude that in the relationship that you have with your employees, but it's a typical coaching request in the company. So that I exhausted all opportunities in my current position. I'm leaving the company. So when a career coach starts working with an employee and they talk about this, all these things, so what's important for you, what's your interest, what your talent, what are the opportunities. And so many times it happens that people just don't see, they only see moving up, they don't want to, or there is no opportunities. They are not thinking beyond their current role. And working with a coach helps them to see these opportunities even in the same role and in the same project or in the same company, that at least they're staying at the company. So that's why, so just coaching is the way of leadership, the type of leadership that you apply situationally.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of related to what you said about awareness and intentionality before, because the kind of leader you want to be will also inform the kind of interventions or the kind of approach you will take.
Say it again, I couldn't hear you were breaking.
Yeah. So I think there are some connection issues.
Yeah.
Is it better now? Can you hear me, Marina?
You are breaking a lot, Alex. Kind of a lot.
Okay. So then Bruno, it's over to you. You can ask the question without me being breaking up.
Okay, I'll ask. It's a short question. Well, can you guys hear me, first of all?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you guys for organizing this. This is my first time at one of these meetups. So just a short background, I'm currently at a senior position at Cisco, leading a team, mentoring and leading some projects. And I'm thinking about pivoting to coach in the future, and I have multiple interests in multiple areas. But the question that I have for you, Marina, is when do you know you have reached the point where you can actually help? So what I mean is, because I see coaching as being a psychiatrist, kind of, and there is, as usually, there is always good advice and bad advice. So my question is, when do you know you are ready to be a coach?
Okay, so that's a good question. When you're ready to be a coach. So that probably when, okay, so at least 50% of the time you can be non-judgmental. Then you're ready to be a coach, because, when we are solving problem for other people and giving advices, I think it's an implicit judgment, because we think person is not capable and I know better. But when you're not judgmental, you become curious. So what's going on in this person's head? For you, the problem has an easy solution. So what's going on with them that they cannot solve it? But most of the time when you start sharing your advices, you will find out, so they have already think of this option. They have thought about 1,000 more options, but still cannot make a decision, and you become curious. So what's going on in their head, right? So what's going on? What's the gap in their thinking that doesn't allow them to make a decision or move forward? So I think probably learning how to be non-judgmental, or at least being able to notice when you're judging.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Marina. Thank you for the response.
If I can piggyback on Marina's answer, I think if you are a manager or a leader, you can do it now.
Okay. Yeah, so just as I said, like I have, in terms of coaching, I have multiple interests that range from career to fitness, social dynamics, and other stuff. And this is it's huge, and so you have to make a choice: either you niche or you become a bit of like a Swiss Army knife of coaching. And you see a lot of that these days. Everyone is a coach these days. So that's why I'm asking: how do you know when you are ready to really give solid advice? Thank you, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot of things I want to comment on, but probably we are out of time. We can take this conversation offline if you want to.
Sure.
So there were a few more, but probably, again, we will take them offline. So Marina, to wrap up, how people can get in touch with you, learn more about you and what you do.
Okay. Okay, through email. Send me an email. So let me type in my email.
And I will send a follow-up so I can share an email with everybody.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So just send me an email.
Is it okay to reach out to you on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Someone asked that.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts from you, Marina? Anything you would like to share, to comment on before we part? And
once again, so thank you guys, so for staying so late after work hours. I'm just curious, so many people after work, instead of drinking beer, right? So go to webinars and learn and talk to interesting people. But that's amazing. That's really amazing. That makes me optimistic. Yeah, but any final thoughts? Coaching or not coaching, whether we call it coaching, whether we don't call it coaching, just as a manager, just all the time think about what you're doing. What's your purpose? Because many people, they are not able to just be non-directive as managers, because many times because of the ego. Now you put your ego aside. You're not the smartest person. You're not the one who has all the answers. And as a manager in such a complicated world, you cannot have all the answers, because if you think you have all the answers, you're so much narrowing down the solution, because it is limited by your way of thinking. And in this complicated world and in all these complicated situations that we are in, it's not possible. It's just limited. Just forget about your ego.
Yeah, another thing which is easier to say than do, but yes, worth striving for.
Get it.
Great. Marina, thanks again for your time, for the great insight, for tackling the questions. Just a few admin announcements from me. There is a recording. I will upload it and I will share it with you. I will share Marina's contacts so you can get in touch with her. Another announcement is that I run a community for people who want to improve the coaching skills. So if you are interested, you can join there. Marina is also there, so you can ask her questions there as well. I'll put a link in the chat section, but I will also share it afterwards. And another announcement is that I'm preparing a free self-paced course on coaching skills. So if anyone is interested, stay tuned. I will share it soon. And actually, I'm looking for a few volunteers who want to go through it. So if you are interested in developing a coaching skill as a manager, just ping me, send me an email or DM me somewhere. It's easy to find me, and we will discuss it. With that, thank you all for staying with us. Again, it's also motivating for me to see so many people willing to forgo their beer for this type of workshop, or not workshop, but conversation. So thank you all. Stay tuned. There's going to be a similar event quite soon, and you'll probably already seen the announcement.
Thank you.
survival. And
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you very much.
Thank you.